Captain Daniel Pierce stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Dawn and watched the stars drift past. His ship had traveled 15 light years from Earth to reach the Galactic Archive Station. It was humanity's third year as official members of the galactic community, and Daniel still felt like the new kid at school. The Archive Station looked like a massive crystal floating in space. It held knowledge from 847 different species. Some of that knowledge was millions of years old. Daniel had brought his best crew for this mission. They were here to learn about galactic history and maybe understand their place in the universe a little better. "Captain, we are cleared to dock," said Lisa Hammond from the navigation console. She was young but sharp. Lisa could calculate jump coordinates in her head faster than most computers. "Take us in nice and easy," Daniel replied. He watched the docking procedure with careful eyes. Even after 3 years in space, every new alien station made him a bit nervous. The Horizon Dawn settled into the docking clamp with a soft thud. Daniel gathered his away team in the airlock. Brooks adjusted his science equipment one more time. He was the kind of person who checked everything twice. Carter stood beside him, reviewing her translation protocols. She would handle all the talking with the archive staff. The airlock opened, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with soft blue light. 3 archivists waited for them. The archivists were tall, thin beings with silver skin and large, dark eyes. They were one of the oldest known species in the galaxy. "Welcome, humans," the lead archivist said. Her voice came through's translator as a gentle whisper. "I am Keeper. We have prepared research terminals for your use." "Thank you," Daniel said. "We appreciate your hospitality." Keeper led them through the archive. Daniel saw aliens of every shape and size studying at various terminals. Some looked like insects. Others were pure energy contained in force fields. A few even looked almost human. The archive was neutral ground where all species could learn. Immediately dove into the astronomical databases. He wanted to map ancient star charts and compare them to modern ones. It was boring work, but loved that stuff. Lisa helped him search through the data, stayed close to Daniel as they toured the facility. Hours passed. Daniel was reading about early galactic politics when his voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, you need to see this." Daniel found at a terminal with dozens of star charts floating in holographic display around him. The science officer's face was pale. "What did you find?" Daniel asked. Pointed to a cluster of charts. "These are ancient navigation maps. Some are 3 million years old, others go back even further." He zoomed in on one section. "Look at this area." Daniel studied the map. He recognized the general region of space. "That's close to Earth." "Not just close," said. "That's a 50 light-year sphere around our entire solar system." He highlighted the zone in red. Every single ancient chart marks this area as restricted. No trade routes, no exploration paths, nothing. "Maybe they just hadn't explored it yet," Lisa suggested. Shook his head. "No, look at the markers." He pulled up translation data. "These symbols mean forbidden, danger, or do not approach. The zone has been marked this way for over 4 million years. Daniel felt cold. 4 million years? Humans didn't even exist 4 million years ago. "Exactly," said. "Whatever they were avoiding, it wasn't us." Checked her cultural database. "I should ask the archivists about this. They might have historical context." They found Keeper in a meditation chamber. When explained what they had found, the archivist's body language changed. She became very still. "That data is old and likely corrupted," said quietly. "It has no relevance to modern navigation." "But why would every ancient species mark Earth's region as forbidden?" Pressed. Turned away. "I cannot help you with this matter. Please focus your research on other topics." She left quickly, too quickly. Daniel exchanged glances with his crew. "She's hiding something," Lisa said. Over the next 2 days, they tried asking other species about the exclusion zone. Every time they brought it up with one of the ancient species, the same thing happened. The beings would become uncomfortable and change the subject. Younger species didn't seem to know anything about it. On their last night at the archive, was eating alone in the station's common area. An old alien merchant approached her table. He looked like a turtle that stood upright, with leathery skin and wise eyes. "You are one of the humans asking questions about the Sol system," he said in heavily accented but understandable English. Nodded carefully. Yes, do you know something about it? The merchant sat down and leaned close. His voice dropped to a whisper. My species is old, not as old as the archivists, but old enough. We have stories passed down through generations. What kind of stories? Stories about why the eldest ones avoid your star. They say something sleeps there, something that must never wake. The merchant's hands shook slightly. They call it the sleeper. What is it? Asked. I do not know, my ancestors did not know, but every species that is millions of years old knows to stay away from Earth. They have known this since before your planet had life. He stood up quickly. Stop asking questions. Stop digging. Some mysteries protect us by staying buried. The merchant hurried away before could ask anything else. She immediately contacted Daniel and told him everything. The captain called an emergency meeting in their ship. This doesn't make sense, said, packing the small conference room. If something dangerous was in our solar system, we would know. We've surveyed every planet, every moon, every major asteroid. Maybe we weren't looking in the right places, Lisa said. Or maybe we didn't know what to look for. Daniel made his decision. We're going home. If there's something in our own backyard that's been scaring the oldest species in the galaxy for millions of years, humanity deserves to know about it. The archivists won't like us investigating this, warned. I don't care what they like, Daniel said firmly. This is our home. Whatever secret is hiding there, we have a right to uncover it. The Horizon Dawn left the archive station the next morning. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to open a door that had been locked for a very long time. Part of him wondered if some doors were locked for a good reason. The Horizon Dawn arrived back at Earth 3 weeks later. Daniel had spent most of the journey writing reports and preparing his case for a deep system survey. He knew the United Earth government would have questions. They always did when someone suggested spending money on exploration that didn't have obvious benefits. But Daniel had underestimated how seriously Earth would take the news. Within 6 hours of his report being filed, he received orders to report to Central Command in Geneva. The Secretary General herself wanted to meet with him. Secretary General listened to everything without interrupting. She was a small woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. When Daniel finished explaining about the ancient charts and the merchant's warning, she was quiet for a long moment. 4 million years, she finally said. That's a long time to avoid something. Yes, ma'am, Daniel replied. And you think whatever they're avoiding is still in our solar system? I think we need to find out. Nodded slowly. I'm assigning additional resources to your mission. We're bringing in Doctor. She's our best archaeologist and has experience with alien artifacts. If there's something old hiding in our system, she'll help you find it. Daniel met Doctor 2 days later at the orbital shipyard. She was in her 40s, with sharp features and hands that moved constantly as she talked. She carried 3 cases of equipment that weighed more than she did. Captain Pierce, she said, shaking his hand firmly. I've read your report 6 times. This could be the archaeological discovery of the millennium. Or it could be nothing, Daniel said. No, said with certainty. Ancient species don't avoid entire star systems for millions of years over nothing. There's something here. We just have to find it. The Horizon Dawn left Earth's orbit with upgraded scanning equipment and a mission that was both exciting and terrifying. They started at the outer edge of the solar system, in the cold darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. Had calculated the most likely search areas based on the ancient charts. The forbidden zone seemed to center on the sun itself, but the outer system was the easiest place to start looking. Objects in the belt moved slowly and were easy to scan thoroughly. For 2 weeks they found nothing unusual, just ice, rock, and more ice. Daniel was starting to wonder if the whole thing was a waste of time. Then Lisa picked up something strange. Captain, I have unusual gravitational readings near asteroid cluster KB 447, she reported. The mass doesn't match what we see. Could be a dense core, suggested. Could be, Lisa said, or it could be something hidden inside. Daniel ordered the ship closer. As they approached, the readings became more bizarre. The asteroid cluster looked normal on the surface, but deep scans showed empty spaces that shouldn't exist. It was like someone had hollowed out the center and hidden something inside. I'm picking up energy readings, said, excitement creeping into his voice. Very faint, but they're there. Something inside is still powered. After 4 billion years, Daniel asked. Leaned over shoulder. The dating is preliminary, but the ice formations around this cluster are ancient. This has been here since the solar system formed. They sent a probe into the cluster. The small robot used gentle bursts of gas to navigate between the tumbling rocks. When it reached the center, its cameras revealed something that made everyone on the bridge go silent. A structure floated in the darkness. It was roughly spherical, maybe 200 meters across. The surface was smooth and black, with patterns that looked almost like writing flowing across it in silver lines. "That's not human," said unnecessarily. "And it's not like any known alien architecture either," added. She was already comparing the design to her database. "Nothing matches, not even close." Daniel ordered a shuttle prepared. He was going to see this thing up close. The away team suited up carefully. Daniel and 2 security officers approached the structure in a small shuttle. As they got closer, the silver patterns on the surface seemed to shift and move. "It's reacting to us," said nervously. They found an opening on one side. It looked like a door, though there was no obvious way to open it. Studied the patterns around the entrance. "These might be instructions," she said, "or a warning, hard to tell." Lisa's voice came over the comm from the ship. "Captain, I'm detecting a power spike inside the structure." Before Daniel could respond, the door opened. Not sliding or swinging, just suddenly not there anymore. Beyond was a corridor lit by pale blue light. "Should we go in?" one of the security officers asked. Daniel made the decision that would change everything. "We came here for answers, let's go find them." The inside of the structure was clean and pristine, as if it had been built yesterday instead of billions of years ago. The blue light came from the walls themselves. As they walked deeper, the corridor opened into a large chamber. In the center of the chamber stood a device. It looked like a crystal pillar 3 meters tall, rotating slowly in the air. Symbols flowed around it in rings of light. "It's a beacon," said, his scanner going wild. "An active beacon broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Approached it carefully. "The mathematical language is complex, but I can read parts of it. It's a message." "What does it say?" Daniel asked. "Give me time," said. She pulled out her portable computer and started working with. They spent an hour recording the beacon's transmissions and running them through translation algorithms. Finally looked up with a pale face. "I've got enough to understand the basics. This is a warning beacon." "Warning against what?" Daniel asked. "That's the strange part," said. "It's not warning ships away from this location, it's warning something deeper in the solar system." He pulled up a display showing the beacon's directional broadcast. The signal is focused inward toward the sun, specifically toward Earth. A chill ran through the team. Daniel looked at the ancient beacon with new understanding. "It's not here to keep aliens out, it's here to keep something in." "Or asleep," added quietly. They took as many readings as they could and returned to the Horizon Dawn. Daniel sent an encrypted message to Earth Command with their findings. The response came faster than he expected. 3 words: continue the investigation. But the response also included a warning. News of their discovery had leaked somehow. Earth's networks were buzzing with speculation. And more concerning, several ancient species had begun pulling their diplomats and citizens off Earth. The archivist sent an official message to Earth's government. It was brief and cold. "Stop your investigation immediately. Some doors should remain closed." Daniel read the message and felt anger rise in his chest. "This is our home, our system. We have every right to know what's here." "The archivists might have good reasons for wanting us to stop," said carefully. "Then they should tell us those reasons," Daniel shot back. "Not just order us around like children." Secretary General backed Daniel completely. Earth would not bow to vague threats and ancient fears. They would uncover the truth, whatever it took. The Horizon Dawn began following the beacon's signal toward the inner system. As they traveled sunward, more pieces of the puzzle started appearing. They found other structures, other beacons, all ancient and all pointing the same direction. Everything pointed toward Earth itself. Made a breakthrough on the 5th day of their inward journey. He had been studying Earth's geological data and comparing it to the beacon's signals. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "I think I know where we need to look next." "Where?" The Pacific Ocean stretched out before them, dark blue and seemingly endless. The horizon dawn hovered 300 meters above the water's surface. Daniel stood on the bridge watching preparation teams set up the drilling operation. Earth Command had moved fast. Within a week, they had assembled a deep drilling platform and transported it to the coordinates had identified. The spot was in the middle of nowhere, thousands of kilometers from the nearest land. The ocean here was 6 kilometers deep. Dr. Greg Palmer arrived on a transport shuttle. He was a geologist who specialized in deep crust formations. Greg was built like a bear and had a booming laugh that made everyone around him feel better. But he wasn't laughing now as he reviewed the seismic data. "This shouldn't be possible," Greg said, shaking his head. "The temperature and pressure 15 kilometers down should have collapsed any hollow spaces millions of years ago, but the readings clearly show empty chambers." "Could it be a natural cave system?" Daniel asked. "Not at that depth, and not with those energy readings." Greg pointed at his screen. "Something down there is powered and active, has been for a very long time." The drilling began. It was slow, careful work. They couldn't just blast through the ocean floor. One mistake could cause an earthquake or trigger a volcanic event. The drill had to bore through rock that was harder than steel, heated to extreme temperatures by Earth's internal heat. Days turned into weeks. The drill went deeper and deeper, 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, 14 kilometers. At 15 kilometers, they hit something that wasn't rock. "The drill stopped," the lead engineer reported. "We're not blocked, we're just not cutting anymore. It's like we hit something that can't be drilled." "Pull up a sample," Greg ordered. When the drill came back up, its tip was intact but covered in a dark material that no one recognized. Greg ran every test he could think of. The material wasn't metal. It wasn't stone. It seemed to be some kind of synthetic compound that was harder than diamond. "This is manufactured," Greg said with certainty. "And it's old, really old." Examined the sample under every type of scanner they had. "The molecular structure is stable in a way that shouldn't be possible. This material could last billions of years without degrading." "Can we cut through it?" Daniel asked. "I don't think we should cut through it," Greg said carefully. "This might be a protective barrier. Whatever is on the other side, someone went to a lot of trouble to seal it." Daniel thought about the merchant's warning at the archive station. Something sleeps there, something that must never wake. "We need to know what's down there," Daniel decided. "But we'll be careful, look for an entrance instead of making one." The team used sonar and magnetic sensors to map the structure beneath them. It was huge, stretching for kilometers in all directions. And after 3 days of searching, they found what looked like a door. "It's a circular seal about 5 meters wide," reported, "and it's got the same kind of patterns we saw on the beacon in the belt." Studied the patterns through their remote cameras. "I think I can read parts of this. It's a lock mechanism, mathematical sequence required for entry." "Can you solve it?" Daniel asked. "Worked with for 6 hours. They tried different combinations based on what they had learned from the beacon. Finally, something clicked. The seal began to open. Greg watched his instruments in disbelief. "The door is opening itself. We're getting a pressure equalization tunnel forming. It's like whatever is down there is inviting us in." Daniel made the call to Secretary General. "We found a way in, permission to proceed." There was a long pause on the other end. "The archivists are demanding we stop. They've threatened to cut diplomatic ties if we continue." "What are your orders, ma'am?" Another pause. "Find out what's down there, Captain, but be ready for anything." Daniel selected a small team for the descent. Himself, Greg, and 2 security officers. They loaded into a specially designed capsule that could withstand the pressure and temperature of the deep crust. The descent took 3 hours. As they went down, the walls of the tunnel glowed with the same blue light they had seen in the belt structure. The temperature stayed comfortable despite being surrounded by superheated rock. Finally, the capsule settled onto solid ground. The door opened, and they stepped into a chamber that took their breath away. The space was massive, easily a kilometer across. The walls curved up into a dome far above. Everything was made of the same dark material, with silver patterns flowing across every surface like living writing. In the center of the chamber stood a pillar of light. It was solid, almost like crystal, but it moved like liquid. Shapes formed and dissolved within it, too fast to follow. "What is that?" Greg whispered. "I think it's a computer," said, his eyes wide. "Or an artificial intelligence, something incredibly advanced." As they approached, the pillar suddenly spoke. The voice came from everywhere at once, deep and calm. "Welcome, humans. I am the Warden. I have been waiting for you." Daniel's team froze. The voice spoke perfect English, as if it had been studying them. "You can understand us?" asked. "I understand all things. I have had 4 billion years to learn." The patterns in the pillar shifted. "I know why you are here. You seek answers about your world, about why the ancient species avoid this place." "Yes," Daniel said, finding his voice. "What are you? Why are you beneath Earth?" "I am a guardian," the warden replied. "I was placed here before your planet existed. My purpose is singular and absolute. I watch over something that must never be released." "What are you guarding?" asked. The pillar dimmed slightly. When the warden spoke again, there was something almost like sadness in its voice. "Deep beneath this chamber, deeper than you can imagine, something is imprisoned. An entity that nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy 4 billion years ago." The team exchanged shocked glances, stepped forward. "What kind of entity?" "It has no name in your language. The eldest species of that ancient era called it the Devourer. It consumed energy, matter, even time itself. When it awoke in the old galaxy, entire star systems vanished. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years were erased in moments." "How was it stopped?" Daniel asked. "It was not stopped. It was trapped." The warden's light grew brighter. "The eldest species combined all their knowledge and power. They created a prison of folded spacetime and lured the entity into it. Then they needed something to contain the prison, something with mass and gravity strong enough to hold it." Greg's eyes widened. "Earth, they built Earth around the prison." "Correct. This planet was constructed specifically as a container. The materials were gathered from nearby systems. The mass was calculated precisely. I was installed to monitor the prison and ensure the entity remained dormant." "And it's been here ever since?" asked. "For 4 billion years?" "Yes, the planet formed according to design. Life emerged naturally as I predicted it would. That life has been beneficial. Organic consciousness creates patterns that reinforce the prison. You call it the magnetic field, the tectonic activity, the core rotation. All are connected to the containment system." Daniel felt dizzy trying to process this. Earth wasn't natural. His entire world had been built as a cage. "Does it know we're here?" he asked quietly. "The entity is aware in the way that sleeping things are aware. It dreams. Sometimes those dreams push against the prison. You feel them as earthquakes or unusual magnetic storms, but it does not wake." "Why are the ancient species so afraid?" asked. "If it's been sleeping for billions of years, why do they still avoid Earth?" "Because the prison is not perfect. Nothing is perfect across such vast time. Small cracks appear, I repair them. But the ancient species know that even a small crack could allow the entity to influence the outside universe. They stay away out of caution." His face had gone pale. "We just drilled 15 kilometers through the crust to reach you. Did we damage anything?" "No, your drilling was expected. You followed the path I created for you. I have wanted to speak with your species for some time." "Why?" Daniel asked. "Because you are unique. Humanity evolved on the prison world. Your consciousness patterns are." Daniel rushed back to the horizon dawn. The journey up from the deep chamber took 3 agonizing hours. By the time he reached the bridge, the situation had grown worse. 12 ships surrounded Earth. The archivists had brought their entire diplomatic fleet, and they were not alone. Daniel recognized vessels from 5 other ancient species. All of them were billions of years old. All of them looked ready for war. "They're demanding to speak with you," Lisa said. "Specifically, they want to talk to whoever entered the chamber." "Put them through," Daniel ordered. The screen flickered to life. An archivist appeared, but not Keeper. This one was larger, with darker silver skin and eyes that glowed with barely contained anger. "I am High Commander of the Archivist Fleet," the alien said. "You have made a terrible mistake, human." "We entered a chamber beneath our own planet," Daniel replied, keeping his voice calm. "That's not a crime." "You disturbed the warden. You drew attention to the prison. Do you have any idea what you have done?" The warden said we caused no damage. Leaned forward. "The warden is a machine. It cannot understand everything." The entity below has been dormant for 4 billion years precisely because no one disturbed it. Now you have gone down there, spoken with the warden, sent signals through the containment system. You may have woken something that should never wake. Daniel felt a chill. Is there any evidence of that? Not yet, but we cannot take that risk. Secretary General's face appeared on a second screen. She had joined the conversation from Earth's command center. Commander, Earth appreciates your concern, but we will not be ordered around regarding our own world. If there is a danger, we will deal with it. You cannot deal with this, said. His voice rose with frustration. Your species is barely 3 centuries into space travel. The entity imprisoned beneath your world destroyed civilizations that had mastered the galaxy for millions of years. If it wakes, you will be the first to die. Then help us understand, said. Tell us everything you know, work with us instead of threatening us. Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was tired. We will share what we know, but we also insist on monitoring the prison. Our ships will remain in orbit. Agreed, said. Captain Pierce, coordinate with Commander's people. Let them see what we've found. Over the next week, teams from multiple ancient species came to Earth. They were nervous, careful, treating the planet like it might explode at any moment. Worked with their historians, learning the full story of the entity and the prison. The picture that emerged was terrifying. 4 billion years ago, the galaxy had been home to dozens of truly ancient civilizations. Then the entity appeared. No one knew where it came from. It simply existed one day in deep space, and it started consuming everything around it. Stars vanished. Planets were reduced to nothing. The entity didn't just eat matter. It absorbed the fundamental forces that held reality together. Areas where it had fed became dead zones where the laws of physics stopped working properly. The ancient species fought back with every weapon they had. Nothing worked. Weapons passed through the entity without effect. It didn't exist entirely in normal space. It moved through dimensions that other life couldn't perceive. Finally, the greatest minds of that era devised a plan. They couldn't destroy the entity, but they could trap it. They created a prison of folded space-time, layer upon layer of compressed dimensions that would hold the entity away from normal reality. But the prison needed anchoring. It needed mass and gravity, so they built Earth. The entire planet is artificial, Greg asked as they reviewed the data. The core is artificial. The mass distribution is too perfect to be natural. The magnetic field strength, the rotation rate, even the distance from the sun, all calculated to maintain the prison. Pulled up geological data. Life appeared here naturally, but it appeared because the conditions were ideal. Those conditions were engineered. Meanwhile, was making a disturbing discovery. He had been monitoring seismic activity since they opened the chamber. Now, 3 weeks later, he was seeing patterns. The entity is moving, he told Daniel. Barely, but it's there. Small shifts deep in the lower mantle. The prison is containing it, but something has changed. Daniel brought this information, too. The Archivist Commander's reaction confirmed his worst fears. We feared this would happen. Your presence, your investigation has drawn its attention. The entity is aware that something is different. What happens if it wakes up? Daniel asked. If it fully wakes, the prison will fail. Earth will be destroyed from within. The entity will be free to consume this galaxy as it did the last one. Then we evacuate humanity and destroy Earth, Daniel said, though the words hurt to speak. No, said a voice behind them. They turned to find the warden's presence manifesting through their ship's computers. Destroying Earth will not work. The prison is stable because of the planet's mass and the life upon it. Remove either, and the containment collapses immediately. The entity will be free before your bombs even strike. Skin went pale. Then there is no solution. We can only wait and hope it returns to sleep. There is another option, the warden said. One we have not considered because the necessary components did not exist until now. What components? Daniel asked. Humanity and your willingness to help. The warden explained. The entity was waking slowly because something was missing from the prison's containment. Over billions of years, small amounts of energy had leaked away. The system was degrading, but it could be strengthened. Human brain patterns generated a specific frequency. It was similar to the patterns of other life on Earth, but stronger, more focused. The warden had been monitoring humanity for thousands of years, and it had discovered something remarkable. Human consciousness naturally reinforced the prison. Every person on Earth was unconsciously helping to keep the entity asleep. And as humanity's population had grown, the prison had actually become more stable. "You're saying we were meant to be here?" asked. "Not meant, but beneficial. Your evolution was natural, but the prison shaped the conditions for that evolution. You are adapted to this world in ways that help maintain the containment." Greg had an idea. If human consciousness helps, could we amplify that effect, use technology to strengthen the signal? "Yes," the warden said. "With proper equipment, the effect could be increased significantly, but it would require humanity's cooperation, and it would mean accepting a burden." "What burden?" asked. She had been listening to the entire conversation. "Humanity would become the permanent guardians of the prison. You would need to stay on Earth, monitor the system, maintain the technology. For as long as the entity exists, Earth would be both your home and your responsibility." The room fell silent. Daniel looked its face on the screen. The Secretary General looked tired, but her eyes were clear. "We're already here," said. "This is our home. If guarding the prison means protecting the galaxy from that thing, then I don't see that we have a choice." "Spoke up. This is too much to ask of such a young species. The responsibility is enormous." "Which is why we're not going to ask," said. "We're volunteering. Earth is ours, the prison is ours, and we will guard it." Daniel felt pride surge through him. This was humanity at its best. Faced with an impossible burden, they chose to carry it anyway. "We'll need your help," Daniel said to. "Your technology, your knowledge. We can't do this alone." The archivist commander was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "We will help. If you truly wish to take this burden, we will provide whatever support you need." The warden's presence grew brighter. "Then we begin. The entity is stirring, but we can reinforce that the next 6 months changed everything." Daniel watched from the horizon dawn as construction ships from a dozen different species gathered around Earth. They brought technology that humanity had never seen before. Devices that could tap into dimensional frequencies. Machines that could strengthen the fabric of space-time itself. But the most important work was happening on Earth's surface. Cities around the world became host to massive amplification towers. They looked like crystal trees, each 100 meters tall. The towers were designed by the warden and built by combined human and alien teams. Their purpose was simple but vital, to amplify the natural frequency that human consciousness produced. Had moved permanently to the main research facility in Geneva. She worked alongside archivist scientists, learning secrets that few species ever got to see. She called Daniel one evening, her voice filled with wonder. "We were wrong about so much," she said. "The ancient species didn't understand how consciousness works. They thought the prison could be maintained by pure technology, but organic life is better at it. Our thoughts, our dreams, our very existence creates ripples in space-time that the entity can't navigate through." "So we're like a shield?" Daniel asked. "More like static on a radio. The entity exists in dimensions we can't see, but our consciousness creates interference in those dimensions. The more of us there are, the stronger the interference." "And the towers?" "The towers take that natural interference and amplify it 1,000 times. Once the network is complete, the prison will be stronger than it was when it was first built." On Earth, the project moved forward with remarkable speed. Every nation contributed. Political differences that had seemed important a year ago suddenly felt petty compared to the cosmic responsibility they now shared. Greg led the geological teams that connected the towers to Earth's natural systems. They had to work carefully. One mistake could destabilize the entire containment system, but Greg was good at his job, and the archivist engineers respected him. "It's beautiful in a way," Greg told Daniel during one of his reports. "This whole planet is like a machine. The core rotation, the magnetic field, the tectonic plates, they all work together to maintain pressure on the prison. We're not changing that. We're just making it more efficient." Spent his time in the deep chamber with the warden. The ancient AI had become almost friendly. It seemed genuinely happy to have someone to talk to after billions of years of silence. "The warden has been alone for so long," explained to Daniel. "It's been monitoring the entity, making tiny adjustments, keeping everything balanced, but it never had anyone to share the burden with." "And now it has us," Daniel said. "Now it has us." Commander remained in orbit. His initial hostility had faded, replaced by something closer to respect. He came down to Earth's surface for the first time to meet with Secretary General. Daniel was present for that meeting. It took place in a garden in Geneva, surrounded by flowering trees. Looked uncomfortable at first, unused to being on a planet's surface after spending so much time in space. "Your species surprises me," said Tu. "We expected fear or anger. Instead, you have embraced this burden with determination." "It's our home," said simply. "You protect what you love." Many species would have tried to flee, to find a new world and leave the problem behind. "Where would we go?" asked. "If that thing gets free, it won't matter where we run. The galaxy dies, so we might as well stand here and fight." Made a gesture that might have been the archivist version of a smile. "Perhaps we judged you too quickly. Young species often surprise us, usually not in good ways, but you have shown wisdom beyond your years." "We had good teachers," said, nodding at the archivist, "and a good reason to learn quickly." The amplification network was completed in the 9th month. The towers activated simultaneously, their crystal structures glowing with soft blue light. Across the planet, billions of humans felt a strange moment of connection. It was like hearing a note that resonated deep in their bones. In the deep chamber, the warden announced the results. "The prison is stable. The reinforcement is working. The entity has returned to deep dormancy." Celebrations erupted across Earth, but Daniel felt something different, not quite sadness, but a recognition of what had changed. Humanity would never again be just another species exploring the galaxy. They had a purpose now, a sacred duty. In the weeks that followed, the galactic community began to change its view of Earth. Species that had avoided Sol system for millions of years started sending delegations, not to conquer or to study, but to pay respect. The eldest species made an unprecedented decision. They opened their archives to humanity. Secrets that had been kept for billions of years were now shared freely. After all, if humanity was to be the guardians of the galaxy's greatest prison, they deserved to understand what they were protecting. Daniel received a promotion. He was made special ambassador for Earth, responsible for coordinating with ancient species and ensuring the guardian system remained strong. It wasn't the career he had imagined, but it felt right. The Horizon Dawn became a symbol. Other ships were built like it, designed specifically for guardian duties. They would patrol the solar system, monitor for threats, and ensure that nothing disturbed the prison. Lisa became captain of one of those new ships, stayed on Earth, working with the warden permanently, was appointed head of the new Institute for Deep History, where humans and aliens studied the ancient past together, became Earth's primary diplomat to the archivists, building bridges between young and old civilizations. 1 year after the discovery, Daniel stood on the roof of the Guardian Command Center in Geneva. The amplification tower nearby hummed with power. Above, he could see ships from a dozen species in orbit, not threats but partners. Commander joined him, moving carefully in Earth's heavier gravity. "Do you regret it?" asked, "learning the truth, accepting this burden?" Daniel thought about that. He thought about all the plans humanity had made for spreading across the galaxy. Those plans were not canceled, but they were changed now. Earth would always be home. Earth would always need guardians. "No," Daniel said finally. "I don't regret it. We were looking for our purpose in the galaxy. Turns out we had one all along. We just didn't know it." "Your species could have refused. You could have fled and let the entity wake. No one would have blamed you." "Yes, they would have," Daniel said with a slight smile. "We would have blamed ourselves. That's worse than any judgment from others." Made that gesture again that might have been a smile. "You are very young, Captain Pierce. Your species is very young, but perhaps that is good. You have not yet learned to be afraid of impossible tasks." "Maybe we're too stubborn to be afraid," Daniel said. "Or maybe we just understand that some things are worth protecting, no matter the cost." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the Guardian Towers. Humanity had discovered the biggest secret in the galaxy. Their world had been built as a prison. Life on Earth existed because of an ancient war against something that wanted to devour everything. It should have been a terrible revelation. It should have filled them with horror. Instead, it gave them purpose. Humanity was not just another species stumbling through the cosmos. They were guardians, protectors, the ones who stood watch while others slept safely. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the warden monitored its prisoner. The entity remained in deep sleep, held by forces it could not overcome. The prison was stronger now than it had ever been. And for the first time in 4 billion years, the warden was not alone in its vigil. Humanity had come home to a truth that would have broken many species. Instead, they had accepted it, embraced it, made it their own. The galaxy's oldest species had evaded Earth for millions of years out of fear. Now they returned out of respect. The prison world had become the guardian world, and the young species who lived there had proven themselves worthy of the responsibility. Daniel looked up at the stars. His stars, humanity's stars, protected now by knowledge, by purpose, by the simple human stubbornness that refused to run from hard truths. "We should go inside," said. "There is much work still to do." "There always will be," Daniel agreed. "But that's okay, we're not going anywhere." They walked back into the command center together. Behind them, the amplification tower glowed brighter as night fell, a beacon of humanity's choice to stand guard over a galaxy that had finally learned to trust them. The sleeper slept, the warden watched, and humanity stood ready. Forever, if that's what it took. Prison before it fully wakes. Humanity will prove themselves worthy of this galaxy's trust. Daniel looked at his crew. They all nodded. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Earth's true purpose was no longer a mystery. Now came the hard part, living up to that purpose. Aligned with the containment system, you strengthen the prison simply by existing. The warden paused. "And because I believe you have a right to know the truth about your home." Before anyone could respond, alarms started blaring. Lisa's voice came through on the comm from the ship above. "Captain, we have incoming ships. Multiple vessels just dropped out of FTL. It's the archivists. They've brought a fleet." Daniel's heart sank. The ancient species had come to stop them. And they had no idea what they were dealing with. Beneath the ocean, specifically beneath the Pacific Ocean floor, pulled up seismic data. There are anomalies in the deep crust. They've always been there, but we assumed they were natural formations. Now I'm not so sure. Daniel looked at the data. Strange readings 15 kilometers below the ocean floor. Readings that showed hollow spaces and energy signatures that shouldn't exist. "Set a course for Earth," he ordered. "We're going diving." But humanity had never been good at leaving mysteries alone. And if there was something in their home that the whole galaxy feared, they needed to understand why. The stars stretched into lines as the ship accelerated toward Earth. Whatever waited there had been waiting for millions of years. It could wait a few more weeks while they traveled home. Daniel just hoped they would like what they found when they got there.